Hello, my name is Adam Cheyer. As you said, I was co-founder and VP engineering of Siri, a company that sold to Apple with the iPhone voice assistant. And now my current company, Viv Labs, and as I said, change.org. So what I'll be talking to you today is some of the stories that I learned along the way and trying to distill it in a form that you can take with you and apply in your life, and we'll see. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Siri. We really, as a team, lived every developer's dream. On February 4th, 2010, like millions of others, we launched an app in the App Store, and things went crazy. It was exciting. We had the TechCrunch articles, the servers were going, we had to bring the head of our operations to the emergency room as part of it all. It was a fabulous time, but so thrilling. And then people started to like it. We saw the tweets. My favorite one was, it's like someone came from the future back in time and said, here, you've got to try this app. I love that one. And so it was extremely exciting. And then came the phone call. Hey, it's Steve Jobs. And out of the blue, and we're like, how did you get this number? Because as a company, we had no phone number on the website, we had no address, we started out as stealthcompany.com. And he's like, yeah, that's a funny story. We didn't know how to get in contact with you guys, but every app developer has to register a phone number as part of their sign up. And so we called the number. What are you guys doing tomorrow? Want to come over to my house? And so that's kind of how we started a discussion with Steve. And a few months later, we were acquired by Apple, fairy tale come true. And then, of course, the best part, referring to a talk earlier in the day by Siri co-founder Tom Gruber, I lived my dream and went on a diving expedition with him, which was absolutely incredible. So people say, look, it's so easy, it's so fast, all you have to do is launch an app. But before that, we actually had to spend a lot of hard work to build something. So we had 3 co-founders, we grew the team to about 20 people, and we built technology that had never been seen before. It was audacious. We're like, well, why can't Google do it? They have tens of thousands of PhDs, but we believed in a vision, set out and did some amazing things. So it took some time and effort to get to the point where we could have our fairy tale moment. But actually, it wasn't just 2.5 years. Before that, there was 5 years of a research phase. So DARPA had started what was the largest AI project in US history, some $200 million paid to research universities around the land, Stanford, SRI International just down the road, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, and 27 of them. And it was really an ambitious project to try to get deeper into artificial intelligence, to bring together all of the technologies you'd need, not only speech recognition, natural language, ontologies, planning, reasoning, machine learning, all together. So it was a lot of work, a lot of research. And then a student, Didier Guzzoni at the EPFL, a Swiss school, distilled a lot of the key ideas from the Kalo project and put it into this beautiful tool that made it easy to build artificial intelligence systems. So that took 5 years of research and development before we were even ready to start commercializing this as a company. So it took a little bit of work to get there into that moment. And of course, that actually wasn't the start of the Siri story either. In 1999, we were already doing work trying to imagine what the world would be like and building Siri-like systems. On 9/9/99 at 9 o'clock, a group that I had with Luke Julia at SRI, we built what would today be called the Internet of Things. We had a television set that you could talk to, not only to change the channels and pull up TV, but to control all of the things in your house. So you might say, you know, do I have any ice cream in my fridge? And the connected refrigerator would tell you, because I'm too lazy to walk all that way to see myself. And so the refrigerator knew all the ingredients, all the contents of that fridge, And if you needed more, it could actually order through Webvan, an early online grocery delivery service that failed in a majestic way. And then as you were driving in your car, your fridge, if you were passing a grocery store, your fridge could contact you to remind you to buy some orange juice since you were there. And if you needed to get gas on the way home, you would use a voice interface and a 3D model of your surroundings to say, where's the nearest gas station? And icons would appear projected onto your windshield. You could point, and we had little cameras that would detect the triangulation of your finger and actually respond and say, I'll get you directions to this place. So we were doing lots of cool research before the research phase of Siri. And in fact, that wasn't really the start of the Siri work either. I'll take you back to 1993. So here's a picture of the very first, I'll call it a Siri prototype. We had a little iPad-like application device, and you could use speech recognition, handwriting recognition, all together to access pretty much most of the functionality that existed on the iPhone in your pocket today: calendars, maps, email, contacts, things of that. And not only could you send requests to them, send an email to Tom, you could combine all of these services together dynamically and say, oh, if mail arrives for me from Tom, fax it to Bob, in a very kind of interesting way. The computer would talk back to you, it knew where you were, the phone would ring and it would tell you have an urgent message, all in 1993. And just for context, I know some people here might not have been born yet. The internet as we know it hadn't existed yet. So I first saw a web browser, Mosaic, in 1994, in my first website, after we had this kind of futuristic, like Siri. So what's the lesson I'm trying to tell here? It's that when you set out to work on a project, it might take a little longer than you thought. So pick something that's important to you. So here we see that what looks like in the public such a quick thing, the app goes up and 2 months later we're working at Apple on the next generation assistant that will be in everyone's pocket. Really, at least my part of this story, took 17, 19 years before it arrived on an iPhone. And of course, with my new company, we're still working on trying to make these types of systems a little bit smarter, a little bit better. So it may take a while. There's another lesson to be had in this, and that's try to look for triggers or trends for where the world is going. So one thing that we did, Doug Kitlos, who was our CEO in 2007, he noticed the iPhone. And at the time, I know this is surprising, most of the phone companies said, no, Apple can't make a phone. Only phone companies know how to make phones. That's going to fail completely. But Doug, being a mobile industry veteran, said, no, this actually flips the game. This changes the game. Apple has just done something incredible. And 2 years from now, the rest of the mobile industry is going to be scrambling to try to compete with this iPhone-like thing. But the screen is still small, the keyboard is kind of hard to type, bandwidth, 3G was a little slow. So being able to just say, hey, make a reservation for 2 people at Il Fornaio tomorrow night, and in one step say it's done, that would save a lot of time and effort. That would be perfect for the mobile industry 2 years from now, and we thought it would take us a couple of years to actually be ready to commercialize this. So as you're trying to choose your next job, your next school, your computer major, or major, et cetera, try to look not where the world is today, but where it's going. What are the trends? What are the triggers that happen so that you can make decisions that by the time you're ready to get there, the world will be waiting for you. Okay, lesson number 3. Do something hard. Sounds easy, but why not do something easy? Well, it turns out it's really the same cost to do something hard as it is to try to do something easy. You're going to give your passion to this. You're going to spend your hours, your time, your money. So pick something ambitious that hasn't been done before, that if you succeed, it'll actually matter. Not that, you shouldn't do lots of little simple things too, but on the main ones of your life, pick something hard. So I'm a computer entrepreneur type. What's hard? Well, one thing that's hard is users. So 50 million users is a good enough number. So you get companies like eBay and Instagram and YouTube. And it's a little bit of a challenge because people don't really think about it. For every eBay that's now, or YouTube, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of similar sites that didn't achieve it. It's a little bit of a dartboard and it takes some luck. When you're trying to create a problem or do something important, say, well, how can I get those users? Go for something big. And one tip that you can use, which I'll take from change.org. So in case you know change.org, today it's the world's largest petition platform. So if you want to build a more connected world and save the sea lions, you can start a petition on change.org and get a lot of people to come together and actually change people's mindsets. Well, we didn't start out that way. When we started change.org, we didn't know we would be a petition site. We said, we're going to be, well, what did we do? We had a politician site, connect people to their local politicians. We tried that. We were the world's largest job board for good causes. When the economy went down, we said, don't just go back to work on a fulfilling social job. We had a gift-giving program where you could give a square meter of rainforest or lower carbon emissions in someone else's name. We tried everything. And so how did we end up being the world's largest petition site for good? We followed the data, and this is something you can do in your lives. Try to be scientific, try to actually record what you're doing, and learn from what you're seeing. So we instrumented every click, and this little petition feature down in the corner seemed to be getting a little bit more traction than some of our other features. So we moved it a little bit more to the center, and we made it a little bit more prominent, and then it started to take off a little bit. And so by analyzing the data, and you can think about how can you get data in the questions you have in your life, we were able to end up in a place that was successful. Change.org, the first year we had about 1 million users. The second year we had about 1 million users. The third year, about 1 million users. And then the fourth year, about 1 million users. But then we went from 1 to 10, January, 10 million users. 10 to 25, January to January, 25 to 50, and we now have, I haven't checked this morning, but probably more than 80 million, on our way to 100 million by tuning and really following the data. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, so 50 million users is one way to do something hard. It is not an easy task. You have to persevere over years. If you are trying to build something that people will buy, figure out, can I actually make $50 million a year in revenue or more? Are there enough people? Will they pay that much? Can I make that kind of money? Maybe you shouldn't work on selling something that you're just not going to get to these numbers. And here's a third way to do something hard. Try to build differentiated technology. This is in the computer space, but you could imagine in biology and anything. Try to do something no one has ever done before. Make a difference. And as examples of some of these companies, so Siri was one of these. It was really a differentiated technology kind of company trying to do things that we didn't think Google or Microsoft were doing. Sentient is another one of my companies. We have the world's largest compute cluster with machine learning trying to solve finance, healthcare, genomics applications. But I know you're thinking, well, I'm not a world's expert in AI, and I could never do that. I don't have a PhD. I don't do this. I could never create a differentiated technology that the best in the field couldn't do. So let me just talk to you briefly about a company called Sumly. So I was working at Apple, very busy, but I get a request from one of our investors, who I love dearly, and she says, Adam, I have a CEO of a company, an AI company, who loves what you've done with Siri and would love a little bit of your advice, love to talk to you. I'm like, I'm so busy. I'll give him half an hour. And she said, oh, one thing, he's 15 years old. And I said, I'll give him 20 minutes. And so I have a phone call with this person. His name's Nick. And I cannot rationalize that the voice I'm talking to is 15 years old. He knows the business side. He knows the technology side, down to the bits and bytes programming, the research side. At the end of this phone call, I gave him some challenges to think about, said we're going to talk again, some homework to do, so to speak. But I said, would you mind sending me a picture? Because I'm trying to figure, 15 years old. This is the picture he sent to me. So he's not in Silicon Valley. He's not a PhD. He had only learned to program a year before. I don't know. He probably looks like a lot of the people in this room. He's in his bedroom in London, in the outskirts of London, and yet he had been able to figure out a technology that no one else had done. Now, look at this face. We're going to move forward 1.5 years. This is Nick at age 17, a little bit more polished by this point. And he sells his company down the road to Yahoo. The rumored number was something like $30 million plus dollars. They only had, I think, 3 employees. And so he had created something that the biggest internet companies in the world wanted and needed and couldn't do at this age. So my message to you is don't say, no, I can't. If he can do it, you can do it. Okay, and one last lesson, visualize it. And what's the it I'm talking about? It's success. Visualize success. So what does that mean? This is a tool that I've used over and over and over again in my life. And so we start something, and I say, well, what would it mean? What would success be? And I try to make it as concrete as possible. So here's the story. We had just started Siri. We were a couple of guys and girls. We walk into an Apple store, and this is what I see. On the wall are icons of the big guys. There was Google. There was Pandora. There was Skype. And I said, I dreamed the most ambitious thing I could say. I said, someday, Siri is going to be right there on an Apple store wall next to those other big guys. Man, and it seemed crazy. It seemed so audacious that, we could do something that would end up there, recognized by Apple. So fast forward a couple of years. So this was my picture. Siri is going to be there, visualizing it. So then Siri comes out on the iPhone. There's a big announcement, first day of sales. I have to go to an Apple store to see, like, are people buying it? Do they like it? What's the vibe? And this is what I see, except tons of people in it. I couldn't find the right picture of that. Completely teeming. But on the front door of the Apple store was a plasma display running Siri kind of in a loop, and it said above, introducing Siri. And that moment, I got chills up my spine because I could remember so precisely wanting to be one icon out of 100 on an Apple store wall. And this was like life coming to me saying, remember that? Tweak, gotcha. And that has happened to me over and over and over again. So I encourage you to visualize success and then go after it strong, go after it hard. And usually it'll work out well, and you'll look back, and it'll be better than you imagined. So in closing, the 5 tips that I'm trying to give you for life that I've learned from my journey along the way. So ideas take sometimes a little longer than you think. So pick something you're truly passionate about and you care about, because you might be doing it for a while. Look around you at the world. I mean, you guys use technology. You guys see what's happening. Look for the trends. Look for the trigger moments. What has changed this year than from last year? You have the opportunity to understand that perhaps better than anyone. And if you can predict where the world is going, that gives you this unfair advantage over everyone else. And you can really do well by getting there first. Do something hard. It's about as hard as doing something easy, but it's way more fulfilling, and you kind of stand out of the crowd. So don't take the easy path. Just pick a path, the best path. Give it your all. Follow the data. So don't just say, well, I think this, or I'd like, maybe this. Figure out, how can I measure it? And then the data may take you on paths that you didn't expect, but if that's what it says, follow the data. And then finally, visualize success, go out and create it, and life will usually come back and show you with kind of a little bit of humor. Not only did it happen beyond what you imagined. So thank you very much.